What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Maxon Report. It is a very, very special episode for us tonight as we are joined by legendary head coach and the 67th Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, Jim Tressel. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. This week makes you get excited.
And it is a very special week, and we are so thankful for you to take the time during a week like this to talk to us. You know, the game this week, Coach, you excellent record in the game, 9-1. We'll talk about that shortly. But thank you for the time, Jordan. Thanks for having me with you again today. It's nice to get the band back together and talk a little football here with Coach Jim Tressel. How are you tonight, Jordan?
Doing excellent. Like Coach said, this week's got me hyped. They looked great, even though they were down a couple receivers, and I'm ready to dive into the traditions and the game.
Yeah. First things first, Coach. This game obviously means a lot to Ohioans, to Ohio State football fans in general, to pretty much everybody between Ohio and the team up north. When you are the head guy, how do you put into words what it means to beat the team up north when you're coaching a football team, you're getting them ready for a game like this?
The thing we talked about constantly was we're fortunate to have our rival game, the last regular season game of the year. And so your goal should be to be playing your best football when you've had the most practice, the most games. This should be when we peak. And to have your rival game at that time is a blessing. And so we constantly talked about just getting better every week, excited that our rival game was going to be when we were playing our best, and not get too excited about, we're going to win the rival game, or are we not? But how are we going to do every play? How are we going to do every series? It's a little different world right now with playoffs.
Sure.
Although if you think about back in the day when it was BCS, it was a different world, because if you didn't win this one, for sure you weren't going to the final two.
Yes.
Well, same deal when it was 4, if you don't win this one, maybe you can sneak in, but, maybe not. Now it's a little bit different. We've shown already that we belong in the 12.
Yes.
Now, though, you want to make sure that you get the best seed you can. You want to be playing the best you can as you get ready to go in the playoffs, and not to mention, it's the Ohio State Michigan game. So there's a lot of neat things that are a part of it. A little bit different. Last year we kind of broke the mold that you could have a good year without beating Michigan,
right.
But it's I'd rather beat them and win the national championship.
That's the best way to go about it, Coach, is getting both of those under your belt.
Right.
Coach,
and win the Big Ten.
Of course. We've got to get back to that.
Do all the above.
Yep. We've got to get back to get to Indianapolis and compete for the Big Ten championship this season, which that's one of the goals of the team. Coach, in your tenure, you took over the job from Coach Cooper, and then when you were hired as the head coach, I think this is one of your better quotes. You said, "I can assure you that you will be proud of your young people in the classroom, in the community, and especially in 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan on the football field." That right there just sums up how important this was. As an Ohio guy, did you already have that kind of instilled in you from your previous experience as a coach at Ohio State and then growing up in the state? Was that already instilled in you, or how did that come about where you just had that passion? Day one, I've got to beat these guys no matter what.
Well, when I was growing up back in those days, the only game that was on was the Ohio State Michigan game. You weren't on TV every week, and you waited until November to see the Buckeyes live. And so obviously that's part of it. I think the other part of it is I learned from Coach Bruce that, this game is special, no matter what else has happened before or happens after. This game, you remember the rest of your life. And now as you think about it, it kind of sets the stage for a playoff scenario. And, but I tell you what, Coach Day's done a great job of making the pivot to a longer season, doing a good job with the recovery and load maintenance and all those kinds of things. And he and I talked a lot a year ago about the fact that it's a different world. You don't end the regular season and then have a bunch of time off in between things. You end the regular season and you go into the meat grinder.
Right.
And you have to do that playing better. In last year's case, sometimes you have to go into that being angry because we went into the thing angry. And that helps. That helps. And then you want to go in there being healthy. And so I think what will be critical, we were probably conservative this past weekend. Some guys probably, if the Michigan game would have played, but it wasn't. And we had our eyes on the fact that we're playing the team up north the next week, and then we're going right into the Big Ten championship and on into the playoffs. So I think Ryan's done an unbelievable job kind of handling the rapid changes between season structure, NIL, portal, all the rest. He's done a great job of just staying even keel and knowing that we have great advantages at Ohio State.
Definitely.
Any of those changes are not going to hurt us, but they won't help you unless you handle them well. And he's done a great job handling them. Yeah,
it feels like almost like a flip switched. After that mission, after the game last year, it feels like a switch flipped in Coach Day, and he's just been rolling, and the team's been rolling, and everything seems to be trending in the right direction.
It appeared to me that, I was at the game last year, and it appeared to me we played tight.
Yeah.
We wanted so badly to win. We had so many older guys that, boy, they just wanted to win that game, and rather than just letting loose. And so they decided after that game, screw it. I'm just going to play fast and hard, and if we're good enough, we're going to win. And we showed that we were good enough.
Definitely. Jordan, what do you got?
No, and just to kind of harp on that, going against Tennessee at home in that unbelievable playoff atmosphere, taking off, getting that sweet revenge game against Oregon, and just having those older guys, like you said, Jack Sawyer and company, JT Tuomoa, rocking and rolling. And I think, especially this year, getting back to the golden pants and having some of these guys actually get, a set of that. And especially with, Indiana also playing really well in the Big Ten, that, I think that's important, especially for tradition. And I kind of wanted to ask a little bit, how did I know you're on time crunch, but the golden pants, how did that really come about?
I think when I think it was Francis Schmidt came to Ohio State in the 30s, and we hadn't beaten Michigan in forever. And his comment was, Michigan puts their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. And he went and beat them 3 times in a row. And because that phrase that he said kind of caught on and he backed it up and we won, somebody came up with the idea, well, let's commemorate, anytime we earn that victory. And, it's become one of those things that, when you run into a 42-year-old Buckeye, no one asks him how many Big Ten championships. No one asks him if he won a national championship. They just ask him, what was your record against Michigan? And I've seen it happen thousands of times. I've been at banquets where they made the people stand up and say what their record was against Michigan, 400 people, and 80 of them are Buckeyes. And it's like some guys had to stand up and say, I was undefeated, or I was 3-1, or I was 1-3, and those guys weren't happy. And so that tradition, we have so many great traditions, and we started that new one with the ringing of the bell, and we had a chance to do that this past weekend. And I think anytime you steep tradition into your program, whether it's the Script Ohio or the Dotting of the I or the Carmen Ohio or Skull Session or coming out of the tunnel, whatever it happens to be, that's what makes this program so special.
Coach, and I'm glad you brought that up, the ringing of the bell. You had the honor of doing that at the Rutgers game. Obviously, as a guy who's accomplished a lot, a national champion, you won many, many games. How did it feel to go out there and ring the bell and be a part of that new tradition that is building?
It was fun. I was an assistant coach at Ohio State 3 years and then a head coach 10 years, and I was never in that bell tower. I always knew about the victory bell, and I knew that it wasn't a good feeling when you left Ohio Stadium after the game if you didn't hear the bell ringing. That hurt. But honestly, I probably could have gone up there. I guess I just never did, and so it was kind of cool, just to see the history of that thing. And that bell is big.
Yeah,
Bell is
some
heavy.
of those. Yeah, you don't really realize it looking down from the ground how big some of those things are.
Yeah.
So that was a very cool moment. I
It's
really thought
pretty
that was
cool. It's fun to see all the old traditions and building of new traditions.
Definitely. Coach, something that you're well known for, and I'm sure you've talked about this in the past. What brought on the sweater vest? Because it's become iconic. You are well known for it. Was it just something you were comfortable wearing? Was there anything to it? What kind of brought that on for you?
It was kind of by mistake or accident or whatever. When I came to Ohio State, we were sitting in a meeting with Nike, and they asked me what I was comfortable wearing on the sideline. And I said, well, gosh, I don't know. They said, well, what'd you wear at Youngstown State? And I said, well, we had a lot of night games, and I'd wear a coaching shirt or a shirt and tie, but I wore a sweater vest, a little chilly at night. And they said, you're wearing a sweater vest. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't think much about it. I said, whatever. And then we got to that first game. It was August 31st or something. It was like 90 degrees. And I thought, this looks stupid. These people are going to think I'm crazy. But, it was just part of the deal and part of the Nike contract. And, you guys know as well as anyone else, the evolution of who kind of controls athletics.
Yeah.
It's gone to the sponsorships. It's gone to the TV networks. It's gone to so many other things than just a couple of ADs sitting in a smoke-filled room deciding, who's going to play who, on which weekend. But it was fine. But you're right. It did become kind of a, bigger than anything we anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help when I think of you, Coach, is you wearing that red sweater vest and you pointing out onto the field, and it just brings those memories back of Maurice Clarett, Mike Doss, Michael Jenkins, all those. It all ties in together. Coach, obviously the games this weekend, it feels like Ohio State's locked up their playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Does this team, and it's a big thing to say, does this team feel like they're maybe a little bit better than they were last year because of the defense being locked in earlier in the year? I mean, how do you feel about this current team and how it projects going forward to, obviously the game, the Big Ten championship, and because it seems this way now, their playoffs chances. How do you feel about this current roster?
I think this team, about all we can say right now is this team appears to be as talented a team as I've maybe ever seen. Now, that doesn't mean anything until we accomplish something, So, we need to, step up and get after it in the rival game,
Sure.
which I feel very confident we will. Coach Day, when I was talking to him before this game, you could just see he's on a trajectory of getting this new team, because it's kind of a new team, very talented, but he's trying to get them to understand what it takes at every step. And then to see, how we handle the meat grinder of a playoff, that's a battle. So I don't think there's any question as to the talent of the team. And now we'll find out, can they accomplish like that team did last year? And they're not like that team last year. And so if anyone thinks, well, this is just like that team, it's a very different team.
Oh, yeah.
But it's got the same opportunities and the same goals.
Yeah,
no, that's very well said. Jordan, what you got next?
No, I couldn't agree with him more, especially, Julian Sain coming from the SEC and sitting out a year under Coach Day. And like you said, just a lot of young talent that got to witness last year's run and didn't necessarily participate. Mm-hmm. But, I think Matt Patricia and all those guys really, brought it together defensively when it comes scheme-wise. Just a lot of disguises and stuff that we didn't necessarily have. But a lot of young, raw talent. And like Coach said, it's got to be, the regular season is not 100% behind us, but it's just kind of pushing forward. And, I'm just excited to witness it. And
I've been
really
impressed with Coach Patricia. I didn't know him. Obviously, I knew of him with his all his excellence there in the NFL. And I had a chance one day at practice to chat with him for probably 15 minutes. And he's an impressive guy. I mean, he quickly embraced how special it is to be at Ohio State. And, he's been at the New England Patriots, he's been at the Detroit Lions, but, he said this is a little different, and just he seemed like a first-class guy. Obviously, he's an excellent coach. And one of the advantages I think Coach Patricia had was that he didn't recruit these guys. So he just evaluates them, honestly, and can kind of see what they can do and what they can't do. And he's not caught up with having sat across the table telling the young man, hey, you can really do great things for us at such and such. Yeah. He's just evaluating it. And so I think it's been a very healthy thing to have a guy that wasn't involved in the recruiting of these guys, but is going to maximize what they do best. And I think that's what he's done a great job with. He knows he's got a lot of talent, but what can these talented guys do best? And so I think he's done a heck of a job with it.
Absolutely. He's been excellent. I mean, it feels like the defense of coaching, of strategy, schematics, it feels like it's just a notch up from last year, Coach. It feels like we're doing more with the defense this year than we were doing last year. And I'm not trying to take a knock on anybody who, may have left the program, but it just feels like maybe another gear has been tapped into under Matt Patricia and this defense this year.
Like most evaluation, I know we have to fill the various weeks of the year, but really evaluation doesn't happen until the year's over, and if we can go back, and we might be able to say that is that he's taken that to the next level, but we're only 11 games into it.
That's fair.
We've got 16 games or something like that. So, I mean, we're maybe 2/3 and it's fair to say we like what we see. But what we've got to do is kind of keep our powder dry and not get too excited, because remember this, the young people hear all the conversation too. Mm-hmm. And I think it was Coach Wooden, the UCLA basketball coach, said, he said, publicity is like poison. It doesn't kill you unless you swallow it. Hmm. And so every week we're talking about all these things, and we're saying that, oh my gosh, look at this, single digits in defense, and we're doing this and we're doing that. And that's all true. But that's all just part of the climb that this team, is trying to take. So we can have a postseason conversation and really have an accurate
that would be fun, to get in there and do
evaluation of hey, here's where we got better, here's where this young guy did, here's where this, that, whatever. And what I worry most about while I was coaching was, don't have these conversations in your head, player or coach, in the middle of the fray. It's okay to evaluate afterwards and think about this or that, or what you did well or didn't do well. But don't let it distract you. And I had some teams that were good at that, and I had some teams that started to believe the hype. And so I'm hoping that this team, and they appear to be, I hope they're just workmanlike, methodical, incremental. We know we have talent, but we know we have to keep getting better. And that's what it appears to me. The few times I haven't been to practice as much this year as I was last, because
you're a little busier, Coach.
I got this crazy new job. But anyway, it appears that it's just a process building toward an end, that rather than last year was kind of like a process building toward, oh, are we going to do it? And then, we had the tough moment and we was like, screw it. We're going to go do it. And we were plenty good and plenty tight. And so every year is so different. But this group, I just like the way they look. I like the way they practice. I like the way they're being coached. Now you have to go out and do it.
100%. And that's why, and Coach, that's why you're a Hall of Famer. you are able to take off the blinders and see the bigger picture. Hey, we've still got a lot of season left. We've got a lot of games left. I know these metrics and everything look great here, but hey, let's look at, what is next on our agenda? What do we have to get done to hit our next goal? And that, you summing that up is really incredible to hear from somebody of your caliber. Jordan, you have experience, caliber. I think those are great ways to say it, Coach.
Okay. Right.
Last thing from me, Coach, you had a tremendous career at Ohio State. You played for 3 national championships. You won a national championship. Just a little bit ago, we were talking about, talented teams. In your tenure at Ohio State, who did you think was your most talented roster over those 10 years?
Man, I'm not going to answer that. The phone will be ringing.
I knew
the phone will be ringing.
Coach, what about me?
Yeah, what's up with that? I thought we were your favorite, But
you had some great teams. Is my main.
No, we
my
really
main
did,
point.
and they were all so different. And that's the fun of coaching. There was no year that was boring, because we had our first year here and we were 7-5, but we lost some guys that stood in the trenches and were willing to, accept this new coaching staff and wouldn't let those, the LaCharles Bentleys and the Jamar Martins and guys like that they wouldn't let those guys not pay attention. Well, then you got the 2002 team. That was a different group. The 2003 team was a little bit different. We'd lost a couple of guys and this and that. And that 2004 was really young, very talented, but we had to figure it out, and then, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they were all pretty talented, but so different, and I always tell people, in my 25 years as a head coach, we played in 9 national championship games with 8 different quarterbacks, and they were all so different. Incredible. And what my staff did a good job with is they figured out what our guys could do, and that's what they asked them to do. And so every team is so different, and I will not and cannot answer that question.
And you gave a fantastic answer, Coach. I just thought of maybe I could catch you slipping there for a second, but that was a heck of an answer. Jordan, any last questions for Coach before we get him out of here?
No, Coach, I guess being a coach myself on the high school level, do you have any words for our youth before you leave us this evening?
The biggest battle that's going on, and always has been, is the battle for your mind. And as a young person, you can't let the crafty, whether it's social media or someone who you shouldn't be listening to, next door or whatever. Young people have to grab a hold of their own mind, decide what they think is important, what they believe in, and really search out the people that can help them get there, and not the people that want to ride along with them while they're going there. And that's a tough one for kids, it really is. But if you can win the battle for your mind, you're going to have a good life.
Excellent words,
Amen.
Coach.
Again,
Coach. We appreciate your time. We appreciate the just the knowledge that you brought to the show tonight and everything. It's a pleasure to talk to you. It's a pleasure to hear you, listen to you, talk about your teams of the past. It's great to hear about the stories of, you get to talk to Coach Day. We really, really appreciate it, Coach. And thank you. And last but not least, good luck on your new job that you've acquired here as Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. That's quite another notch on the accomplishment board. That's excellent. Thank you again, Coach.
Well, you know how I feel about Ohio, so we're going to work hard.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, man. God bless. Go Bucks.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes,
and
All right.
Go Buckeyes.
Yepper.
Jordan, I just
Amazing.
another big time moment, that we got to have together because of this show.
Yes.
Obviously Coach Tressel he was the head coach of the team when you and I were growing up, really becoming hardcore fans through the 2000s. We experienced some of the 90s, but we weren't really, had to be locked in on the TV until probably Coach took over there in 2000, 2001. And
Oh, yeah.
we got to, watch and become hardcore Buckeye fans throughout his coaching tenure. And that's stuck with us from a long time. I mean, I still remember when Coach in the Ohio State Buckeyes came to Mark Twain Elementary, and they, walked through the halls, and there's Coach wearing his sweater vest, and there's all these monstrous human beings walking in behind him. And, there's just something special. And Coach Tressel is a guy who I'll forever hold near and dear to my fandom because he was the head coach when I really fell in love with the Ohio State Buckeyes on a personal level. So I can't thank Coach enough for taking the time tonight.
I mean, if you would have told me longer than that now, 15, 16 years ago when we were balling it up and playing football just in the yard, that we had to end the game before the game, or we met up after the game, that we would talk to the coach that we just watched win national titles and navigate Ohio State through many, like you said, many talent evaluations, whether it was the evolution of the quarterback and the evolution of the option, and you think about the spread option and things of that nature, where they had to get away from the power eye, that we would get a chance to talk to him and dig into the knowledge, and somebody that really navigated Ohio State through not only the recruiting process, but had to really change the way the game was played and keep up with SEC speed, and get down there in the bowl games and things of that nature, that we'd have a chance to talk to him. I'd have called you crazy and then scored another touchdown on you, but
there's more historical inaccuracies, more Jordan. But here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you this. I want to tell you that I love what you've done with the show. Ohio Sports Talk is something that I'm very passionate about, and I had to pull away from because I'm the kind of person who finds something and I'm stuck to it, and I overthink it and I overspend on it and I do too much time, and got away from me doing what I need to do outside of this. But what you're doing now, taking the time to talk to athletes from all across the country now, you've done six interviews, or 5 or 6 interviews, and you've knocked it out of the park. You've done a great job highlighting these young high school athletes, or these seniors who are going on to other things. I think you've done a great job, and I'm very happy that you've kind of transitioned into the Maxon Report, and I hope people continue to tune in, continue to support you. But it was really nice getting back on the microphone with you tonight and getting to talk to a legend and a Hall of Famer in Jim Tressel. So thank you, buddy, and thank you for continuing the Ohio Sports Talk tradition in your own way.
Oh, absolutely. And, that doesn't go without the support of you and the support of your family, and, being still the guy behind the screen. You're still the wizard behind the curtain. And, I'm just the voice box, and, it works together great. But again, we got the band back together. We got the Blues Brothers.
Felt great.
Last ride tour. Great, and it felt great. And Doug, we're finishing off with 601 live viewers tonight. And thanks to everybody that tuned in. We appreciate you. We'll have this on our page. I'm sure we'll have snippets and parts of the conversations, especially the Golden Pants, and hearing what he had to say about the team up north. And we'll have it closer to game day. And Doug, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off this evening?
No. The last thing I want to say is I want to kick the shit out of Michigan this weekend. Enough's enough. I think the team's flipped the switch. I think we're primed to do it this year. I want it bad. I want it bad. I want to get back. I want the pants. I want to go into Indianapolis against Indiana, ready to go, fired up, no losses. I think this is the year we get back to it, Jordan. Hoping next Saturday you're here watching the game with me. But I'm looking forward to next week and the game and getting back into the win column. It's got to happen, Jordan. This is the season to do it right now. So
absolutely. I think that, and Ryan Day, like outside the analytics and, how the season has gone, it's something I think he'll finally get off his back, because he's got to beat that team up north. He's got to go to the Big Ten championship. He's got to, take that mantle and a banner in Indianapolis. And we got to relax a week and ready to kick the shit out of whoever's next.
Of course. All right, guys, this has been the Maxon Report. I've been your host tonight, Doug. That's the Coach Jordan Maxon. Tune in to all of Jordan's interviews. They are all over the YouTube channel. They are reposted on the X. They're also on Facebook. Jordan is doing an excellent job interviewing these young men and getting some of their story and some of their experiences in high school football out there. So give Jordan a follow there and give him some support. And I'm Doug, and I will hopefully be back here sometime in the future. But again, it was an absolute pleasure talking to Jim Tressel tonight. Can't thank him enough. And go Buckeyes, and see you next time.
See you next time.